Dr. Elena Rodriguez never expected her quiet research job on planet Kepler 442b to change everything. She was just a scientist studying strange plants and soil samples, nothing too exciting. Most days, she worked alone in her small research station, running tests and sending reports back to Earth. The planet was mostly empty, just purple grass, weird trees, and thick fog that never seemed to lift. That morning started like any other. Elena was drinking her coffee and checking her computer when alarms started going off. Her equipment was picking up something big crashing in the marshlands about 5 miles away. At first, she thought it might be a meteor or space junk. These things happen sometimes on frontier planets like this one. But when she looked at the readings more carefully, something seemed different. The object was giving off strange energy signals, patterns that looked almost like technology. Elena felt her heart start beating faster. In her 3 years on this planet, she had never seen anything like this. She grabbed her emergency kit and jumped into her small exploration vehicle. The ride to the crash site was bumpy and dangerous. The marshlands were full of toxic gases and deep mud that could swallow a person whole. But Elena was careful and experienced. She had explored these dangerous areas many times before. When she finally reached the crash site, what she saw took her breath away. It wasn't a meteor at all. It was clearly a spacecraft, but unlike anything humans had ever built. The ship was smooth and curved, made of some kind of metal that seemed to change. Color in the light. Steam was coming out of cracks in its surface, and strange symbols glowed faintly along its sides. Elena sat in her vehicle for several minutes, just staring. This was it, the moment every scientist dreamed of. First contact with alien technology. Her hands were shaking as she put on her protective suit and grabbed her scanning equipment. She had to document everything carefully. The ship's hull had a large crack running down one side. Elena could see inside, but it was dark and filled with some kind of mist. She called out, not really expecting an answer. To her complete shock, she heard a weak voice respond from inside the ship. "Help! Please help!" The voice was speaking English, but with a strange accent Elena had never heard before. It sounded young and female, but there was something unusual about the way the words were pronounced. Elena's scientific training fought with her natural caution. This could be dangerous, but someone was clearly hurt and needed help. She carefully climbed through the crack in the ship's hull. Inside, the walls glowed with a soft blue light. The air was thick and hard to breathe, even through her protective mask. Strange equipment lined the walls, most of it damaged from the crash. Everything looked incredibly advanced, far beyond current human technology. In the center of the ship, Elena found her. A young woman, or at least something that looked like a young woman, lying on what seemed to be some kind of medical bed. But she was covered from head to toe in a thick, dark substance that looked like liquid metal. Only her face was partially visible, and her eyes were the most unusual color Elena had ever seen. They seemed to shift from blue to green to silver. You are human," the alien girl said weakly. "I learned your language from your television. Signals. I have been listening for so long, hoping to find you." Elena knelt down beside her, trying to stay calm despite the incredible situation. "Yes, I'm human. My name is Elena. What's your name? What happened to you?" "I am Zara. I am from the planet Cathara, very far from here. My people are dying. We have a sickness that stops us from having children. I came here because we learned that humans might be able to help us." Elena looked more closely at the metallic substance covering Zara's body. It seemed to be moving slightly, almost like it was alive. "What is this covering you?" "It is a protection shell. It kept me alive during the long journey through space. But now it is making me sick. I need someone to help remove it, but it is very dangerous. If it is not done correctly, I will die." Zara's eyes filled with tears, and Elena felt her heart break a little. This being had traveled across the galaxy, risking everything for her people. She was alone, scared, and dying on a strange planet, far from home. "Please," Zara continued, her voice getting weaker. "If you wash me and make me clean, if you help me survive, I can give your people amazing gifts. Knowledge of the stars, new technologies, cures for diseases, and I can bear strong children who will help both our peoples survive." Elena sat back, overwhelmed by what she was hearing. This wasn't just about helping one individual. This was about the future of two entire species. The responsibility was enormous, and she had no idea what the right thing to do was. She looked at Zara's pale face and saw the desperation there. This alien girl had risked everything on the hope that humans would be kind enough to help. Elena thought about her oath as a scientist and as a human being to help others when possible. "I'll try to help you," Elena said finally, "but I need to understand more about what this process involves. And I need to get you back to my research station where I have better equipment." Zara's eyes brightened with hope for the first time. "Thank you. You may be saving both our worlds." Getting Zara back to the research station was the hardest thing Elena had ever done. The alien girl was weak and could barely move. Elena had to carry her most of the way, and the metallic substance covering Zara's body made her incredibly heavy. Every step through the marshland felt like it might be their last. When they finally reached the station, Elena was exhausted but determined. She carefully placed Zara on the medical examination table in her lab. Under the bright lights, she could see the metallic coating more clearly. It looked like liquid mercury, but moved with purpose, almost like it was thinking. Sometimes it would shift and change patterns across Zara's skin. "This substance," Elena said, running her scanner over it. "It's not just protecting you, is it? It's alive somehow." Zara nodded weakly. "It is biometal. My people created it long ago when we first began exploring dangerous worlds. It bonds with our bodies and keeps us safe from radiation, poison, and the cold of space. But it was only meant to be used for short trips." Elena frowned as she looked at her readings. "How long have you been wearing it?" "Almost 2 years. The journey to find your planet took much longer than we expected. The biometal is now trying to become permanent. It thinks it is saving me, but it is slowly poisoning my blood." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She was looking at technology far beyond anything humans had developed, but she could see that it was killing Zara slowly. The alien girl's skin underneath looked pale and sickly, where Elena could glimpse it through small gaps in the coating. Over the next few days, Elena worked around the clock studying the biometal. She took samples, ran tests, and tried to understand how it worked. The substance was incredibly complex, part machine, part living organism. It responded to chemical signals from Zara's body and adjusted itself constantly to protect her from threats. The problem was that after 2 years, it had become too protective. It was now treating Zara's own immune system as a threat and was slowly shutting down her vital organs to protect them. "I think I understand how to remove it," Elena told Zara on the 4th day. "But it's going to be painful and dangerous. The biometal will fight back when it realizes what we're doing." Zara looked up at Elena with those strange, color-changing eyes. "I trust you. You are the first person to show me kindness since I left my homeworld. If I die, at least I die knowing that humans have good hearts." Elena felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She had never attempted anything like this before. One mistake could kill Zara instantly, but doing nothing would definitely kill her slowly. They started the process early the next morning. Elena had prepared a special chemical bath based on her analysis of the biometal. The idea was to convince the substance that Zara was safe, so it would release its hold on her body gradually. As soon as Zara entered the bath, the biometal began to react. It started moving faster across her skin, forming protective barriers around her vital organs. Zara cried out in pain as the substance tightened its grip on her. "It's fighting the treatment," Elena said, monitoring Zara's vital signs. "But that means it's working. Just hold on." For 6 hours, Elena stayed by Zara's side as the biometal slowly began to dissolve. It didn't want to let go, and every few minutes it would try to reform and protect Zara again. Elena had to constantly adjust the chemical mixture to stay one step ahead of the substance's adaptive behavior. Finally, as the sun was setting, the last of the biometal slipped away from Zara's body. Elena helped her out of the bath, and for the first time she saw what Zara really looked like. She was beautiful in a way that was completely alien, but somehow familiar. Her skin had a subtle crystalline pattern that caught the light and made her seem to glow softly. Her hair was long and silver, and her eyes now stayed a steady, deep blue color. She looked young, maybe in her early 20s by human standards, but there was an ancient wisdom in her expression. "How do you feel?" Elena asked, wrapping Zara in a warm blanket. "Free," Zara said, smiling for the first time since Elena had found her. "I had forgotten what it felt like to breathe without the biometal filtering everything. Thank you, Elena. You saved my life." As Zara recovered over the following days, she began to share more about her people and their world. She told Elena about the great cities of Kythera, with buildings that grew like living trees but were stronger than any metal. She described gardens that floated in the sky and oceans that glowed with their own light. But she also told Elena about the plague that had destroyed her civilization. It had started as a simple genetic modification, designed to make her people stronger and smarter. Instead, it had made them unable to have children. Within a generation, the birth rate had dropped to almost zero. "We tried everything," Zara explained. "Our best scientists worked for decades to find a cure. Some of us even volunteered for dangerous experiments. Nothing worked. Finally, we decided to send scouts to other worlds, hoping to find a species compatible enough to help us continue our line." Elena was fascinated by everything Zara told her, but she was also worried. Her communications equipment had been picking up strange signals for the past few days. Someone was scanning her research station from space, and she suspected it wasn't friendly aliens coming to visit. "Zara," she said one evening as they watched the sunset through the lab windows, "I think we might have visitors soon. Human visitors. And I don't think they're going to be as understanding as I am." Zara looked concerned. "Your military forces?" Elena nodded. "They monitor all research stations for unusual activity. My power usage has been way above normal while I was treating you, and I've been sending some very strange data reports. They're going to want to investigate." "What will they do to me?" Elena looked at Zara's worried face and made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "I won't let them hurt you. We'll figure this out together. But we need to be ready for whatever comes next." Elena's worst fears came true 3 days later. She was having breakfast with Zara when her security system started beeping. On the screen, she could see 3 military ships landing near her research station. Her heart sank as she watched soldiers in full combat gear stepping out of the vehicles. "They're here," Elena said quietly to Zara. "Stay calm and let me do the talking." Zara looked nervous, but nodded. She had been feeling much better since the biometal was removed, but Elena could see the fear in her blue eyes. "What will you tell them about me?" "The truth," Elena said. "Well, most of it anyway." The soldiers were led by a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He introduced himself as Colonel Hayes from Earth Defense Command. Elena had heard of him before. He was known for being tough but fair, someone who followed orders but also cared about doing the right thing. "Dr. Rodriguez," Colonel Hayes said as he entered her lab, "we've been monitoring some very unusual activity from your station. Power spikes, strange chemical orders, and some very interesting data transmissions. Care to explain?" Elena took a deep breath. "Colonel, I'd like you to meet Zara. She's a visitor from another world and she needs our help. The colonel's eyes widened as he saw Zara sitting calmly at the lab table. His soldiers immediately raised their weapons, but he held up a hand to stop them. Stand down. Dr. Rodriguez, please explain the situation. For the next hour, Elena told Colonel Hayes everything. She explained how she found Zara's crashed ship, the biometal coating, and the story about Zara's dying people. The colonel listened, carefully, asking questions, but never interrupting rudely. Zara also spoke, telling her own story with quiet dignity. She explained about the plague that had affected her people and why she had made the dangerous journey to Earth's sector of space. She spoke about her hope that humans might be willing to help save both species. When they finished talking, Colonel Hayes was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "This is the most incredible thing I've heard in 30 years of military service. But it's also the most dangerous. We have no idea what diseases this alien might be carrying, or whether her story is even true." Elena felt angry. "Colonel, she's not lying. I've run every test I can think of. She's not carrying any diseases that could hurt humans, and she's been nothing but honest with me." "That may be true, Dr. Rodriguez, but this decision is way above both our pay grades. I have orders to secure any alien technology or beings, and transport them to Earth for study." Elena stepped protectively in front of Zara. "She's not a thing to be studied. She's a person asking for help." Colonel Hayes looked uncomfortable. "I understand your feelings, Doctor, but we have procedures for this kind of situation. The safety of Earth comes first." That's when Zara surprised. "Everyone?" She stood up and spoke directly to the colonel. "I understand your concerns, and I respect your duty to protect your people, but I can offer you something that might change your mind." She walked over to Elena's computer, and with Elena's permission began typing. Within minutes, she had accessed files that should have been impossible to reach and was displaying information that made Colonel Hayes's jaw drop. "These are the technical specifications for faster-than-light travel," Zara explained calmly. "This is the cure for the disease you call cancer. This is how to create clean, unlimited energy from basic elements. I have knowledge that could advance your civilization by hundreds of years." Colonel Hayes stared at the screen, his military training fighting with his amazement. "This could be faked. How do we know you're telling the truth?" Zara smiled sadly. "Because I'm going to give it all to you anyway, whether you help me or not. My people believe that knowledge should be shared, not hoarded." "But Colonel, I am dying." Elena looked at Zara in shock. "What do you mean dying? The biometal is gone. You said you felt better." "I do feel better," Zara said, "but removing the biometal started a process that cannot be stopped. My body was changed by wearing it for so long. I have maybe 6 months before my organs begin to fail." The room fell, silent. Elena felt like her world was collapsing. She had saved Zara from the biometal only to learn that it might have been too late all along. "There is one way to save me," Zara continued, looking directly at Elena. "But it requires someone to share the genetic process with me, to become connected to me in a way that will keep both of us alive." Elena understood what Zara was asking. It was the same thing she had mentioned when they first met, but now Elena understood the full meaning. Zara wasn't just asking for help having children. She was asking Elena to fundamentally change what she was, to become something new that was part human and part Kitharan. Colonel Hayes looked between Elena and Zara. "What exactly are you proposing?" Zara explained the genetic bonding process her people had developed. It would allow two compatible beings to share biological functions, essentially making them stronger together than either could be alone. The process would also allow them to have offspring that carried the best traits of both species. "The children would be remarkable," Zara said. "They would have human creativity and emotion, but also Kitharan intelligence and longevity. They could live for centuries, and help guide both our peoples into a better future. Elena felt overwhelmed by the choice in front of her. If she agreed, she would no longer be fully human. She would be something new, something that had never existed before. But if she refused, Zara would die, and with her would die the hope of saving the Catharan people. Colonel Hayes was studying the technical information Zara had shared. Dr. Rodriguez, this technology could change everything for humanity. We could explore the galaxy, cure diseases, solve our energy problems. But the risk is mine to take, Elena said firmly. Zara isn't asking for anything from humanity as a whole. She's asking me personally to help her. And I've made my decision. Elena looked at Zara and saw hope flickering in those blue eyes. She thought about all the wonderful things Zara had told her about Catharan civilization, and all the amazing knowledge they could share with humanity. But most of all, she thought about the brave young woman who had traveled across the galaxy on nothing but hope. "I'll do it," Elena said. "I'll help you, Zara, whatever it takes." Colonel Hayes looked like he wanted to argue, but then he saw the determination in Elena's eyes and the gratitude in Zara's face. "Dr. Rodriguez, I hope you understand what you're committing to. This will change you forever." Elena nodded. "I know, but some things are worth changing for." The next few days were the most intense of Elena's life. Colonel Hayes had agreed to give them time to prepare for the genetic bonding process, but she could see the worry in his eyes. He was taking a huge risk by not immediately reporting this to his superiors back on Earth. Zara worked with Elena to set up the equipment they would need. Her crashed ship still had some working technology that could be combined with Elena's medical equipment. Together, they created something that had never existed before, a machine that could safely bond the genetics of two different species. Elena couldn't help but feel nervous as she watched Zara work. The alien girl's hands moved over the strange controls with practiced ease, adjusting settings and running diagnostics on systems Elena couldn't even begin to understand. "Are you sure this will work?" Elena asked for the 10th time that day. Zara looked up from the machine and smiled. "My people have done this process many times, but never with a species as different as humans. The good news is that your genetics are more compatible with ours than we ever hoped. The bad news is that we won't know exactly what will happen until we try." Elena felt her stomach flutter with butterflies. She was about to undergo a procedure that would change her forever, and nobody knew exactly what the results would be. But every time she looked at Zara, she remembered why she was doing this. The alien girl had risked everything to save her people. And now it was Elena's turn to take a risk. Colonel Hayes spent most of his time talking quietly on his radio, probably arguing with his commanders about what to do. Elena could hear bits of conversation through the thin walls of the research station. Words like unprecedented situation and potential threat and incredible opportunity floated through the air. On the third day, everything changed. Elena was running final tests on the bonding equipment when alarms started going off throughout the research station. Colonel Hayes burst into the lab, his face grim. "We've got problems," he said. 3 more ships just entered orbit, and they're not ours. "My commanders back on Earth decided this situation was too dangerous to handle locally. They sent a full military strike team with orders to secure the alien and all related technology." Elena felt her blood run cold. "What does that mean?" "It means they're planning to take Zara back to Earth, whether she wants to go or not. And they're not interested in her offer to share technology peacefully. They want to study her and figure out how to take what they want by force." Zara had gone very still during this conversation. Elena could see the fear in her eyes, but also something else. Determination. "How long do we have?" Zara asked quietly. Colonel Hayes checked his watch. "Maybe 2 hours before they land. After that, my authority here ends and theirs begins." Elena made a decision that surprised even herself. "Then we do the bonding process now." "Elena!" We're not ready, Zara protested. We haven't finished all. The safety checks. If something goes wrong, if we wait, we'll never get another chance, Elena said firmly. Those soldiers won't care about your people or mine. They'll just see you as something to be used. I won't let that happen. Colonel Hayes looked between them. Dr. Rodriguez, what you're proposing is incredibly dangerous. If this process fails, you could both die. Elena was already moving toward the bonding equipment. And if we don't try, Zara dies anyway, and her people have no hope. At least this way, we have a chance. The next hour was a blur of preparation. Zara explained the process, as quickly as she could. Elena would need to enter a special chamber that would temporarily change her genetic structure to be compatible with Ketharan biology. Then, through a process Elena didn't fully understand, their life forces would be connected permanently. You need to understand, Zara said as Elena prepared to enter the chamber. This will change you in ways we can't predict. You'll have some of my abilities, but you'll also have some of my weaknesses, and we'll be connected for life. You'll be able to feel my emotions, and I'll feel yours. Elena hesitated for just a moment. She thought about her quiet life as a researcher, about the simple existence she would be giving up. Then she thought about Zara's courage in traveling across the galaxy, and about the amazing children they might have together who could bridge two worlds. I'm ready, Elena said. The process was unlike anything Elena had ever experienced. As soon as the chamber activated, she felt her body begin to change at the cellular level. It wasn't painful exactly, but it was overwhelming. She could feel her DNA restructuring itself, becoming something new and different. At the same time, she began to sense Zara's presence in her mind. Not her thoughts exactly, but her emotions and memories. Elena saw flashes of Zara's home world with its floating cities and crystal forests. She felt Zara's sadness at leaving her family behind and her hope that this desperate mission might succeed. The bonding took almost an hour. When it was finally complete, Elena stepped out of the chamber feeling like a completely new person. Her vision was sharper, her hearing more sensitive. She could sense electromagnetic fields and feel the life energy of plants and animals around her. But most amazingly, she could feel Zara's presence like a warm light in her mind. They were connected now in a way that went beyond physical or mental. They were bonded at the level of their souls. How do you feel? Zara asked, though Elena could sense the answer through their new connection. Different, Elena said, smiling, but good, really good. Their celebration was cut short by the sound of ships landing outside. Colonel Hayes looked out the window and cursed under his breath. They're here, he said, and they brought a lot more soldiers than I expected. Through the window, Elena could see armed troops surrounding the research station. These weren't the same kind of soldiers as Colonel Hayes's team. These looked like special forces, trained for dangerous missions and not afraid to use violence to get what they wanted. We need to get out of here, Elena said. She was surprised by how calm she felt, despite the danger. The bonding process had changed her in ways she was still discovering. Zara nodded. My ship is partially repaired. If we can reach it, we might be able to escape. Colonel Hayes looked conflicted. I can't officially help you escape, but I also can't let them take you against your will. He paused and then made his own difficult decision. I'll try to delay them as long as possible. You two get to that ship. Elena felt a surge of gratitude toward the colonel. He was risking his career and possibly his freedom to help them. As they prepared to leave, Elena realized that her old life was truly over. She was no longer just Dr. Elena Rodriguez, human scientist. She was something new, something that had never existed before. And despite the danger they were facing, she had never felt more alive or more certain that she was doing the right thing. Getting to Zara's ship was the most dangerous thing Elena had ever done. The military soldiers had surrounded the research station, but Colonel Hayes created a distraction by arguing loudly with their commander about proper procedures. While They were focused on him. Elena and Zara slipped out the back and made their way through the marshlands. Elena was amazed by how different she felt after the bonding process. Her new enhanced senses let her see in the dark and hear the soldiers' movements from far away. She could feel Zara's emotions through their connection. Determination mixed with worry, but also hope. They reached the crashed ship just as the soldiers discovered they were gone. Elena could hear shouting and the sound of vehicles starting up behind them. But Zara's fingers were already dancing over the ship's controls, bringing systems online that had been damaged in the crash. "Can it fly?" Elena asked as the ship's engines began to hum with power. "We're about to find out," Zara replied, her hands moving across controls that now somehow made sense to Elena through their shared connection. The ship lifted off, just as the first military vehicles reached the crash site. Elena watched through the ship's windows as they rose above the marshlands, leaving the planet's surface behind. For the first time in days, she felt like she could breathe freely. Over the following weeks, Elena discovered just how much the bonding process had changed her. She could now understand Kitharan technology intuitively, and her mind could process information much faster than before. Most importantly, she could feel that she and Zara were creating something new together, not just their love for each other, but literally new life. The pregnancy was unlike anything human doctors had ever documented. Elena's body was changing to accommodate a child that would be part human and part Kitharan. Zara monitored everything carefully using her people's medical knowledge, and Elena was amazed by how strong and healthy she felt throughout the entire process. They had found a hidden asteroid in a remote part of the solar system where they could stay safely while Elena's pregnancy progressed. The asteroid had water and minerals they needed, and Zara's technology could create breathable atmosphere and comfortable living spaces inside the rock. During those peaceful months, Elena learned more about Kitharan culture and history. Zara shared memories through their connection, showing Elena the beauty of her home world and the tragedy of watching her people slowly disappear as fewer and fewer children were born. "Your people will survive now," Elena told Zara one evening as they watched the stars through their ship's viewing window. "Our children will carry the best of both our species." Zara smiled and placed her hand on Elena's growing belly. "They will be amazing. I can already sense their strength and intelligence. They will be able to do things neither of our peoples could do alone." When the time came for the birth, Elena was surprised by how natural the process felt. The children, twins, as Zara had predicted, were born healthy and perfect. The boy had Elena's dark hair, but Zara's blue eyes, while the girl had Zara's silver hair and Elena's brown eyes. Both children seemed to glow with a soft inner light that came from their Kitharan heritage. "Look at them," Elena whispered as she held her babies for the first time. "They're beautiful." Through their mental connection, Elena could feel Zara's overwhelming joy and relief. After years of believing her people were doomed to extinction, she was holding living proof that there was hope for the future. The children grew quickly, showing remarkable intelligence from a very early age. By the time they could walk, they were already communicating in both English and the Kitharan language, which they seemed to understand instinctively. They could sense emotions and intentions in ways that amazed both their mothers. Elena spent her time documenting everything about the children's development and about Kitharan technology and culture. She knew that someday, when the time was right, this information would need to be shared with humanity. But for now, they needed to stay hidden and safe. One day, when the children were about 2 years old, their peaceful life was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Colonel Hayes appeared on their ship's communication screen, looking older but relieved to see them. "Dr. Rodriguez, I've been looking for you for months," he said. "I have news you need to hear." Elena felt nervous about any contact with Earth authorities, but Colonel Hayes had helped them escape, so she decided to listen. The military team that came to arrest you caused a political storm back on Earth, he explained. When word got out about first contact with aliens, people demanded to know why the government tried to handle it with force instead of diplomacy. There's been a complete change in leadership, and the new administration wants to make peaceful contact with alien species. Elena felt hope rising in her chest. What does that mean for us? It means you and Zara are no longer considered fugitives. In fact, they want to offer you official positions as ambassadors for human-alien relations, and they want to learn about the children. Not to study them, but to understand how humans and aliens can work together peacefully. Elena looked at Zara, who nodded thoughtfully. Through their connection, Elena could sense that Zara was as tired of hiding as she was. What guarantees do we have that this isn't a trap? Elena asked. Colonel Hayes smiled. You have my word and the word of the new Secretary of Alien Affairs, a woman named Dr. Chen, who used to be a xenobiologist like yourself. She understands what you've accomplished and wants to support it, not destroy it. Over the following months, Elena and Zara carefully began making contact with Earth authorities. They shared some of their knowledge and allowed limited contact with the children, always making sure everyone understood that they were a family first and scientific subjects never. The response was better than Elena had dared to hope. Instead of fear or hostility, most humans were fascinated and excited by the possibilities of cooperation between species. Scientists lined up to learn about Catharan technology, while educators wanted to understand how to raise children who could think, in ways no human ever had. More importantly, word spread to other Catharan refugees scattered throughout the galaxy. Slowly, other survivors began to make contact, hoping to find the same kind of sanctuary that Zara had found with Elena. Elena stood in the observation deck of their new home, a space station built jointly by human and Catharan technology, watching her children play with other hybrid children who had been born in the months since their return to civilization. The little ones ran and laughed together, switching effortlessly between human and Catharan languages, their eyes bright with possibilities their parents could barely imagine. They're going to change everything, Zara said, coming up behind Elena, and wrapping her arms around her wife's waist. Elena leaned back against Zara's warm presence, both physical and mental. Through their bond, she could feel Zara's contentment and hope for the future. They already have, Elena replied. Look around us. A year ago, humans didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're building a future together. Their son ran up to them, chattering excitedly in both languages about a new game he had invented that combined human creativity with Catharan logic puzzles. Elena picked him up and marveled at how normal this all felt now. Her life with Zara, their extraordinary children, their role in building bridges between worlds. Mama Elena, Mama Zara, their daughter called out. When can we visit grandmother's homeworld? Elena and Zara exchanged a look. They had been planning a trip to what remained of Catharan civilization, to show the children their heritage, and to help with the ongoing work of rebuilding the Catharan people. Soon, sweetheart, Elena said. We're going to see all kinds of amazing places together. As Elena looked out at the stars, she thought about the scared scientist she had been just 2 years ago, working alone on a distant planet, with no idea that her life was about to change completely. That woman could never have imagined the family she would have now, or the important work she would be doing to build understanding between species. She felt Zara's hand slip into hers and squeezed gently. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, along with their remarkable children who represented the best hope for both their people's futures.